I love the way you got a volunteer, Pat.
Yeah, it's good. Unmute yourself, Jim.
Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hope everybody's getting ready to have a very, very happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. And I hope you enjoy the show this evening. Hope you come back often. Hope you tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to turn to Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer. Father Walters, welcome.
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and the beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father. We appreciate all the help that you give our show.
You're welcome.
Now I want to turn to the sponsor for the show, and that's Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
Really appreciate Dennis being the sponsor for our show. I think that's wonderful. Dan Dowdy is the sponsor for the My Bill segment of the show. And I had another senior moment the last time we did the My Bill on the 18th. And I forgot to run his video. So I'd like to run his video tonight before I introduce Chris and Greg to talk about the My Bill.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale Resource and the S-Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
And I'm really pleased to make the announcement that Dan now and his wife Amy are major contributors to the newsletter that we've come out with. We're a year of producing that, or Martin Breckbiel is. And I'm really pleased that Dan and Amy want to participate with us. They've also agreed that they're going to send out the notices of our newsletter to both their S-Scale and O-Scale subscriber email list. So combined with our email list that we have of subscribers to our website, we'll be sending out somewhere around 8,000, 8,500 notices each month about our newsletter. And I think that's a real advantage for us as far as getting some visibility for our newsletter and about new tracks and about our scholarship and the activities that we're doing. And I really do appreciate Dan for wanting to do this with us. This is just another example of how the different organizations that are involved in our hobby, if we want to work together, we can help each other, and it doesn't cost anybody a significant amount of time and effort and money, but we're working together for the good of the hobby, and that's what it's all about, in my opinion. So again, I'm really appreciative of Dan and Amy wanting to do this, and I think it's going to be fantastic for our newsletter and for additional people finding out about us and what we do. Now, I also think it could be great for the model manufacturers that are interested in our show and participate, because it's not easy for them to get advertising, and this is free advertising. You want to put something in our newsletter, we don't charge you for it. You just have to send it to Martin in time for him to get it in the next issue. So if you have a product coming out in January, you want it in the January issue of our newsletter, then you need to send it to him before the end of December, probably by the mid of December, maybe even the first week of December. It depends. Martin's flexible, I'm told. But anyway, I really appreciate Dan's doing it. So let me turn this over to Chris and Greg and have them talk about that my bills. Chris, Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Jim, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Hey, Greg. All right, let's see. The December challenge for the My Build is interiors, the insides of buildings, engine houses, caboose interiors, engine interiors, whatever you've got that could even loosely fill into those categories. That will be on December 18th, which is the last show of the year. And it helps to speak properly. To participate, email your photos to me, railrunner130@hotmail.com. Please have those to me by December 15th, and we'll be sure to include those. The next regular My Build free-for-all is in January. I don't know that we've established dates for that yet. But
yeah, January the 22nd.
22nd, okay. All right, and let's see, while we're at it, if you have not participated before, please include a photo of yourself for your introductory slide, and also please include a description, just so that way, if for whatever reason, if you're not there, then we can speak somewhat intelligently about what we're looking at here. So I'll turn it over to Greg to see if Greg has anything to add to it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing the ones we had last week. There was 6 different people had sent in stuff, and I hope to see an even bigger showing for the interiors, because I know how popular interiors can be, and it doesn't have to be a building. It can be a passenger car or a locomotive. I'm sure people have stuff that they've done something to, even seats inside a passenger car that you maybe stuck a couple people in. So get those photos to Chris in time. And I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, since I probably won't get to talk to you again. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jim.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you both for everything that you're doing. It's fantastic. And my bill, I do think, is growing. So I'm happy about that. And I'm happy about the ability that we have now to get our message out to more people. So if you have something that you can comment about the My Bill in each one of the newsletters, I think that would be great. And Chris, Greg, I'll leave that up to you guys to figure out who's going to do that. But with the distribution now that we're going to be getting, the more people that hear about it, I think the better. So thanks both of you, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks. Same to you, Jim.
Now I want to turn to Martin Breckbiel, MMR, for his discussion of the upcoming December newsletter, which is going to be a fantastic document, as always. So Martin, welcome.
Evening, Jim. Discussion. Wow. How about just a few words? We're up to the usual 50 pages. It's about 99% done. I'm waiting for 2 pages from Dan Doughty, who claims he will send me a PDF sometime between now and Monday. Probably show up Tuesday. Well, that's what most things do. And just have to relearn how to use Acrobat to merge documents, but shouldn't be too much of difficulty involved there. Small amount of bribery, possibly. Other than that, I mean, next week I'll be wrapping that up, and we'll be moving forward into January's issue. I have plenty of cover pictures. Well, I would never say plenty. I have enough to get me partway through into next year, but I can always use more cover pictures. So as I noted a week or 3 back, a good picture of something on your layout, a really nice photo that you took, portrait orientation preferable, and send it to me, and we'll see if you might end up on the cover. And if you got an article to send, or even a paragraph about something neat or interesting, send that along too. As Jim said, we don't charge and we don't pay, so
That's right.
it balances the books perfectly.
We're equal opportunity, Martin.
Absolutely. We discriminate against everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for everything that you're doing, Martin, because it's a great publication. I can't thank you enough for all the time and effort you're putting in. Plus, you have 2 volunteers now helping you. I think that's great.
Indeed, we have people.
Actually, you have 3 volunteers now.
We have 2 people proofreading because of my feeble-mindedness and not being able to see all my own errors or everybody else's errors. But no, that's perfectly, as I stated to them earlier, that's why they're there, because 2 different orthogonal sets of eyes on a document make it a lot better.
And after you've read it 2 or 3 times, you miss it. You don't see it anymore.
Oh, I'm painfully aware of that from my past history and my other real life employment.
Thanks again, Martin.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Bob is not going to be here tonight, so you're stuck with me talking about the scholarship. Well, after tonight, we have 3 more shows for the end of this year, because our last show is going to be the 18th of December. So what we need to do is make sure that we know exactly how much money we have in the bank of the scholarship funding, so that by the end of December, we can announce to everybody how many scholarships we're going to be able to offer. We want to be able to offer at least 3 of them, as we did last year, for $2,000 a piece. So if you're going to contribute for this year, and this year we need to know how much money we're going to be able to have for the scholarships by the end of December. It doesn't mean we won't be collecting money starting in January again for the following year, but for our 2025 budget, we need to make sure how much cash we have in the bank by the end of 2024. So you'll hear us talk about the scholarships for another 3 weeks after tonight. But at that point, then we need the contributions in. They're tax deductible, so you can deduct them from your taxes. And they're easy to do. If you want to use Zeffy, that's fine. If you want to send a check to us, you send it to Tom Farrell, and his address is in the information on our website. And our website is newtracksmodeling.com/scholarship. And it'll tell you how to use Zeffy. And it'll also tell you where to send a check to for Tom and at his address. And then you'll have contributed to the scholarship. So any amount that you can contribute will be appreciated. We have minimal expenses. The only expenses that we have really are the fees that we have to pay for either to the state or the federal government for licenses and so forth, or we have for the Zoom meetings and for the website and that kind of thing. Those are the kind of expenses that New Tracks has. The scholarship doesn't pay for any of that. Scholarship only has whatever the fee is that we have to pay for the company for the scholarship itself, which is not that much. And that goes to the state of Florida. And then we also have the cost of sending around the banners and the handouts that we send around for the people that are going to represent us at the various shows and so forth around the country. So that's really our expenses. So our expenses aren't very much. Zeffy, if you use Zeffy to make a contribution, they don't charge us anything. So basically almost 100% of anything that we collect goes to the actual scholarship itself to the kids. And that's what we're trying to do. We're so happy and so proud of the 3 kids that we were able to help last year. And we're looking forward to helping at least 3 this year so that we can continue the scholarship going. And we hope that it grows in the future. The kids are the future of this hobby. Look around at how old everybody seems to be getting, and frankly, how forgetful I'm starting to get, and others are too. So the kids are the future, and anything that we can do to help them and to show them that model railroading is really the hobby for them long term, I think that's to everybody's benefit. So if you can see your way clear for a small contribution, we sure would appreciate it. And you have until the end of this year to make it so that we'll know exactly how much we can offer the kids for next year. So your help would be appreciated. And if you have any questions, my email is jimkello@newtracksmodeling.com. So thank you so very much for your past support and look forward to this year's support. I have a few other announcements. Jack, I'm sorry, Jack, I will never get your last name correctly. Let me just spell it because that's the least embarrassing way that I can do this. DZIADUL is now MMR number 781. And Jack, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. I know how hard you work to do this. I've laughed and joked with you about doing it. And I'm really so pleased that you finally got it. And being 781 is a real honor. And I wanted to make everybody aware of the success that Jack has shown now, because as of now, he is MMR 781. Congratulations, Jack. All the best. Martin's talked about the newsletter. Volunteers. Well, we have gotten volunteers since our last show, thank goodness. We need one more right now. And that volunteer is a person to help Earl Hackett. So I've asked Earl to talk a few minutes about what's involved in what he does to break up the individual segments of our shows so on YouTube, so that if a viewer only wants to see a specific segment, they're able to go to that specific segment that Earl's broken out. And we need somebody to work with Earl and help Earl, and so that Earl is not the only one that's able to do this for our show. So Earl, please.
Hey, all right. The right now I'm putting together a detailed file to describe exactly how I go about doing this. It's not a complicated process, and it doesn't take very long. I spend a full show to break out all the pieces and clean them up, make them look nice. Takes an hour and 15 minutes. Actually, a little less, about 20-30% shorter than the actual show itself.
Okay, Earl, I'll help you.
Okay, there
Who's
we
that?
go. Who said that?
Jeff Thornton, I heard Earl describe it last week,
Yep.
and I went through and played the whole show in review and saw how he broke it up into segments, and it seems pretty easy. He's been able to do it, and I'm sure he could teach me. And I have an hour and a half to spare.
Fantastic. All right,
Super
Earl,
duper.
you have a volunteer, Earl. I'll leave it up to you to get in contact with Jeff and make sure how everything is done and so forth. And then you got some help.
Jeff, could you put your email in the chat?
I believe I already did. If you look further up, I did a post to everyone.
Okay, great. And I'm going to put this into a hard copy, and I will get a copy off to you.
Get it notarized.
All righty, very good.
Thanks, Earl, and thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it so very much. All right, so we got that taken care of. Phil, if we could show the slide. Our last show for 2024 is December the 18th. And our first show for 2025 is January the 8th. And on January the 8th show, you're going to have a new host. And that's going to be Tom Farrell. And I get to start building some models again for a while. And I'm so happy about that. But most importantly, I'm so happy that Tom wants to do this and wants to carry the show forward and wants to make this the greatest mentoring program in the world. I think that's fantastic, and I couldn't be happier to have Tom take it over. So anyway, our last show for this year is December the 18th, and our first show for next year is January the 8th. Hope you can be there for both of them. We hope to be able, December the 18th, again, depending on the contributions we get to the scholarship, to be able to announce how many scholarships we're going to be able to offer as of the 1st of January to the kids. So again, if you can make a contribution, please do so before then. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. If I haven't said that before, I hope everybody has one of the best Thanksgivings they've had in a long time. Well, now let's go to the show. And the first person I want to introduce is David Vaughn, who is the current president of O-Scale Central Organization. And I'm really pleased that David is agreeing to do these segments on the show and to tell us about what's happening at OSC. One of the main reasons that I'm pleased about it is we have two members of our organization here that are supporters. Dennis Brennan is also the manufacturer's liaison for O-Scale Central. So if you're a manufacturer and you have a question or you want to participate in O-Scale Central, Dennis Brennan is your contact person. And you couldn't find a better person to do that job. And Tom Farrell, if you're interested in NMRA gauge, either ON3, ON30, ON18, whatever you're interested in is NMRA gauge, Tom Farrell is the NMRA gauge representative for O-Scale Central. So you can contact Tom. And he couldn't have picked a better person, David, for that position either. So David, thank you so much for doing this for Dennis and for Tom. Thank you for everything that you're doing for O-Scale Central, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Jim. First of all, I want to say that there are a number of O-Scalers in addition to Dennis and Tom who are lurking in the New Tracks modeling audience. I'm not going to blow their cover if they choose to remain anonymous, but I don't know whether we're taking over, but at least we've got a decent percentage of the New Tracks community. And I want to start by thanking Jim Kello for his support for O-Scale 2 Rail and for O-Scale Central as we've been working to promote the scale. He has done a great deal, both in the public-facing part of what he does and behind the scenes. So we really appreciate his support and participation, and he is a member of O-Scale Central. We're very proud of that. We wish Jim a smooth transition to Tom Farrell and the new team with whom we hope to continue our great relationship. Knowing Jim, I'm sure that he will continue to stay involved. Most of you have heard me beat the drum for two-rail O-scale, and I don't want to spend an undue amount of time on that. But for anybody who is not familiar with it, O-scale two-rail is alive and well, and at 8 times the mass of HO, detail is easier to apply and see. Mechanisms have increased mass. Sound systems have larger speakers and better sound. And the relationship between the modeler and the model is different than the smaller scales and much more satisfying. Now, I will confess that I'm part of the old guard and I'm part of the non-techie part of the old guard. I'm going to try and share the screen and show you a couple of things. And I don't know if I can do that. I'm looking for
Pat, Phil, could one of you help David?
this.
Yeah, you get the green button on the bottom that says share. Click on
Yeah,
that.
I did that, and I'm looking to get my
Okay, click on the bottom
email.
of the
I'm
screen.
looking to get my email up.
Well, click on your
And-
email down there, wherever your email is. That's
Well,
it's the next one over. It's the blue and white, isn't it?
One with the envelope.
There we
One
go.
that looks like an envelope,
Yep.
or is it in the browser?
He's got it. He's just got to bring it up. Double click on it. Being lazy tonight, is it?
Huh.
Must be a lawyer computer. It wants to charge before it does anything.
Hit it a few times.
Okay.
It might come in.
This is not working for me, guys.
We'll take your word for it.
Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing. This is just I don't want to humiliate myself technologically.
You're not sharing. I killed it.
You
Okay.
almost killed him there for a minute, Phil.
I had photographs, you'll have to take my word for it, of a greatly super detailed Wabash mogul to show how fantastic the detail can be in O-scale. And I
Too bad it wasn't on your PowerPoint, David.
say again?
Wasn't on your PowerPoint, was it?
No,
Okay.
I pulled some special photographs. Anyway, the model was to be in honor of Tony Custer's current projects. Many of you know Tony from his layout design, his column in Model Railroader, his editorship of Railroad Model Craftsman, and so on. Many people may not know that Tony has always been a closet O-scaler, and this is at least his second O-scale layout, which will be a Wabash branch line. It's going to be featured in a number of publications and articles, and it gives him a chance to scratch his O-scale itch. I got just a couple of news items that I've tried to pick those that may not be high profile in some of the other publications. First, Atlas is coming out with a run of their Alco Century 424, 425 from their master line. And many of you who follow O-scale at all may know that Atlas has been doing a lot with the old MTH tooling in China, but their own tooling has been on the shelf since before COVID and the supply interruptions came about. So this is their first master line issue in probably 6 or 7 years, and we're very pleased at that and hope that it leads to more projects. I think I may have mentioned last time that Lambert Locomotive Works has issued a Lima diesel switcher body. The Limas are interesting engines and have never been done before in O-scale. And these projects, these loco shells, are part of a real revolution in O-scale 2-rail. The body shell is 3D printed, and the body shell will be joined to an all-nation switcher drive, a long established, very solid gear drive, which combined with CAN and high efficiency motors really gives a good result. But just to show you, I got to do that's the Lima switcher body. These are 3D printed, and this is a cut from about a dozen steps ago. One of the things that's really nice about 3D printing is that you can edit it and improve it fairly easily. And in fact, although I think 3D printing is going to be a breakthrough for the entire hobby, nowhere is it going to be more important than in 2-rail O-scale, because the tooling cost for O-scale 2-rail projects has been prohibitive, and there is little tooling other than some CAD drawings to do with 3D printed models, and there is no minimum order, and there is no required inventory. So this project, we think, is going to be an example of a lot of different projects that are going to be coming down the pike in 2-rail O-scale. We are going to really benefit from these changes. I also want to flag at least one more project, and that is that Wit and Wisdom Models is issuing a model of John Armstrong's proto-freelanced 200-ton articulated covered hopper, the Cementipede. Many of you will remember John's displaying that model and showing how he utilized prototype design features and practices to make his own articulated covered hopper. And it's going to be also largely 3D printed, and it's going to be one of a kind. It'll be a very limited edition, and on the Wit and Wisdom website, you will be able to read more detail about it. I've got some other smaller announcements, but in the interest of time, I will move along. I am so delighted that in addition to the close relationship that we have with O-scale, with NewTrax modeling, O-scale resource has really been a positive force in O-scale 2-rail. And if you have not checked out Dan Dowdy's online magazine, please do. One of the advantages of online publications is that while you can burn through an awful lot of paper and an awful lot of ink and an awful lot of money getting hard copy magazines printed, O-scale resource only uses large amounts of electrons, and they're much cheaper than ink. And so Dan is able on a bi-monthly basis to come up with over 100 pages of O-scale meaty articles and ads. And one of the things that's really cool, and again, I'm probably talking about technology that everybody else already knows, but the ads that appear in Dan Dowdy's O-scale resource, you can click on, and they will link you directly to the advertiser's website. And so you not only can see what was news at the time the ad was placed, but what has happened since then, and it's updated on a continuing basis. It's really Dan is a very imaginative guy and has been really a force for good in the O-Scale 2-rail community. As for O-Scale Central itself, it's been my pleasure to serve as president of the organization for 4 years. During that time, we have tripled our membership, and we have been much more active in terms of outreach to the community and support for O-Scale 2-rail modelers. We are expanding in several areas. I was going to announce Dennis Brennan's role as our manufacturing advisor and Tom Farrell as being our narrow gauge coordinator to support our outreach to the narrow gauge community, which is a large portion of the scale. And Jim Kello beat me to that announcement, but I'm happy to have it repeated twice, and I can't tell you how excited we are to have these guys coming on, because they are not only capable in their own right, but they've been broken in over the last several years through the program here, New Tracks Modeling. So we are delighted to have them. I will be stepping down at the end of the year. I've got a big basement and a lot of projects I want to do. Just like Jim Kello, I want to get actually building some models. Taking over for me will be Skylar Shippey. And Skylar is not only the president of the Detroit O-Scale Model Railroad Club and the director for membership of the Nickel Plate Historical Society, but he's also an avid modular layout constructor and is going to be very active in that area. Skylar is also a professional engineer, not a locomotive engineer, but a professional engineer, and he is under 30, and he speaks very good technology without even having to have a 12-year-old nephew around to explain it to him. We will have some other changes in the board. Nick Bulgarino, our former secretary, will be coming on as a member of the board of directors. He is also under 30 and is also very technologically savvy. So we are trying to do our part to pass the torch to the new generations, and we have a lot of enthusiasm, a good group of people. The O-Scale community is good in general, but in particular, we've had a good leadership group at O-Scale Central. We can't do it all. We're not doing it all, but we're giving it a try, and we're getting better and broadening our outreach on a steady basis. If you are interested and don't know what we've been doing, go to our website, which is very simple, oscalecentral.com. O-Scale Central is all one word. .com will get you right there. There's an orientation video on 2-rail O-Scale, a full-scale product and service guide, so we can go and find out what's available, and a whole bunch of other information, including coming events and things you need to know to consider going into O-Scale. And as we say in one of our ads, when your eyes are getting bifocular, it may be time to be looking at O-Scale 2-rail. So I recommend it. Anyway, thank you for the time, Jim. We really appreciate everything that New Tracks Modeling does for the model railroad hobby in general, and for the help you give us for O-Scale.
Hey, Dave, could
Yes, sir.
you tell the folks about the O-Scale modular standards that you guys have developed?
We have them, and Skylar Shippey has actually been using them. They are based on work that Rich Randall did, and I will tell you, I'm not a modular guy. I got a basement that's 18 feet wide and 90 feet long, and I sometimes wish I would have gone modular, but I didn't. I believe you can get information on that directly from Skylar, and after January 1, you can get it through a contact us link on the O-Scale Central website, which is president@oscalecentral.com, I think. But there are standards. Our dream is to take a large O-Scale event like the Chicago show and bring together modular sections from multiple locations built by multiple modelers and have them magically work together and be able to operate. We're not going to make it this year, but we live in hope that we'll be able to do it next year. There are standards, and they are intended to offer people an option. We understand a lot of modular groups are already established. They have come up with their own standards. We are not going to dissuade them from that and are not trying to do so. We may at some point try and have some transition modules and some discussions on that. Rich Randall's standards are very, very thorough, and we spent a lot of time working on them. Skylar has actually translated those into a full modular layout. And other than say, I've been told they work, I can't tell you much detail about them. They're intended to be simple, they're intended to be sturdy, they're intended to be flexible. Other than that, I can't help you. Other than to say they're out there.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for David? David, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I think it's so important for you to get visibility in the community because a lot of people keep asking, well, what in the hell does O-Scale Central do? And it's one thing for somebody else to try to tell them, well, go to the website and you'll find out. But it's something else to see the president of the organization come and be able to answer questions and tell everybody exactly what's happening with the organization. I hope that Skylar wants to do it. I've heard nothing but great things about Skylar. He'll be most welcome to keep doing the segment that you have been doing, that you started with both this, our show here, as well as in my article in O-Scale Resource Magazine for O-Scale Central, so that the organization continues to be able to communicate to the O-Scale community what the organization's about and what it is accomplishing, and where it's going and what it's doing and the efforts that it's making to make O-Scale a common knowledge again in the model railroad community. So David, thanks so much for everything that you're doing. For the 4 years that you've been president, it's certainly been a new sheriff in town as far as O-Scale is concerned. If it hadn't have been for you, I don't think O-Scale Central would have ever come into existence. I don't think that its predecessor, O-Scale Kings, would have survived. I think you got O-Scale Kings survived, and then you converted it to O-Scale Central for doing business as name. And I'm so proud of you for doing that, David. I know what it cost you personally, and you've certainly done a great job.
Well, thank you. Listen, we've got a great leadership team, number one. Number two, we've got some real beneficial programs, and we are steadily growing. We intend to keep doing that, and we intend to keep serving the O-Scale community. One of the things that we do every month, we have an O-Scale online program, and that has also been growing. We offer people features of what's happening in O-Scale 2-rail, the opportunity to see layouts, the opportunity to talk to the manufacturers and so on. It's really been a good organization, and it will continue and expand in the future. Nobody is indispensable, and we've got some good folks coming in. So thank you.
Thank you so much, David, for being here this evening. Talk to you later. Well, now let's go and talk to G-Scale Modeling with our host, Steve Bittinger. But before I introduce Steve, I want to introduce the sponsor for this segment of it. and it's New Creations, Victorian Railroad Buildings, LLC.
It went to sleep. Probably.
You're on.
Welcome to New Creations Victorian Railroad Buildings, located in Bakersfield, California, 1 hour from the famed Tehachapi Loop. As part of building his model railroad layout, Alan Rogers took photos and made scale drawings of a number of buildings in the Southwest, many of which no longer exist. New Creations Victorian Railroad Buildings has turned these photos and drawings into kits with laser-cut wood, 3D printed components and detailed instructions. We produce kits in HO, O, S, N and G scales. Our O scale kits are compatible with Holiday Village dioramas. You can see our products at train shows or use the QR code to visit our website. We hope you will try our unique kits. They are easy and fun to build, even for beginners. You will enjoy the finished models for many years to come.
Well, now let me go to the host for this segment, Steve Bittinger. Steve, welcome. Is Steve not here?
I don't see him. Where'd he go?
I thought he was, but he doesn't look like he's here right now. He might have
Okay.
one of those East Coast storms.
Let me go to the next person then. Who is Matt Woods?
We're here. We are
Oh.
here.
What?
He said he's here.
Oh, okay. Steve, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, we're here, believe it or not.
Okay.
Anyway, it's been a while since we've been last on. If you recall, 3 months ago, came up with the bright idea. We were going to take a rail car, put it outside, and see what kind of weathering was going to happen setting in the rails. So it's been there. Hate to say this, we've had a shortage of rain. We're suffering a severe drought, so it hasn't gotten the amount of water we would hope for. But it's going to pour rain on Thanksgiving, so maybe we'll catch up. So if you take a look real quick at what's happened in 90 days' time, up here on the roof, Greg Cassidy had recommended we do some steel wool, and you can see it has just rusted up fine and dandy. We have our iron cut nails, likewise rusted up fine and dandy. And if I remove some of this off the top of the car, there you go. We're starting to get what we're hoping for, which is this oxide, iron oxide, which is going to run down over the sides, and it's starting to do that now. Getting caught in the crevices along the rivet lines, up in the catwalks, all the typical places that kind of corrode and rust. So tomorrow morning, the car is going to be back outside again and hopefully getting rained on. It's also started to have a little color change. So these cars are made with the UV resistant plastic, and I don't expect it to break down real quickly because of that. I've seen cars like these set outside for 2 years. Some of them look pretty good, others pretty well wiped out. But that's just an update on where we are with our rail car. Our other ongoing project is the build of our raised bed garden railroad outdoors. And just since it's been a month, just a little refresher. We had our track plan. We have our model of our bed that has been put together here using railroad ties for our structure. And the last time I left off with you, Mr. Sherrill's trying to tell me something. I don't know what.
I'll take it when you're finished.
Oh, he wants to have it when I'm finished with it. Anyway, this is where we are with our 32-inch high retaining walls going all the way around. And we're at the stage right now where we're gathering materials. So one of the first things that we had to gather up was to put a liner inside of this thing. So I had recommended you go out and you buy yourself a bag of contractor's trash bags. Most of those you'd be familiar with. They sell those at Home Depot, similar places. I'm going to grab mine. And this other material I want to show you as well, right here. This is something else you should be out gathering up. Most of you should probably recognize this. If you go to lumber yards, anywhere they get pallets of materials in, it is strapped on with this material right here. And the reason we want this is we're going to use this material to run from side to side across our layout as retaining material. This will get buried in the soil line right above our gravel bed, and this is going to help prevent expansion of the sidewalls. This material you can put out there, there are little fasteners. They're going to be right in the line. Just save those. You can always put one end of yours into the last one like this. If anything, pop a rivet in here, you'll be all set, and you can make these things just as long as you want. But time to get them is now. Start gathering now before you need them for the construction. It'll get rid of those. So here, we have a typical one of these contractor trash bags, right? And I measured these earlier. This one's folded over double here at the moment. It's almost too big to get on camera. But these things are great because our layout walls are 32 inches high. These trash bags are 32 inches wide. So that'll work out great because we're going to hold these up and over the edge. And when we put them on there, we're going to lap them one over the other at this end, so we have at least a 6-inch overlap as we go around the perimeter, putting these in place. So how are you going to fasten them up there? Three methods using 3 different tools, depending on what you happen to have. Here's the edge of our railroad ties. Most of you probably have one of these, an arrow or sling line staple gun. They shoot T50 staples, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in length. When you're putting this material on, 5/16, 3/8, 1/2 inch will all work, not the 1/4 inch ones. You need something that's going to penetrate, it's going to get down in there, and it's going to tie in. If you're really sort of a glutton for punishment, you'll use one of those, and it's going to take you a long time. This next tool here is called a slap stapler. In construction, we use these all the time. You can buy these, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever. This is a lot quicker. Way you go. Way more staplers. Next step, if you have an air compressor, you could go to a place like Harbor Freight and Tool and get yourself an air-driven staple gun. These I use in construction all the time. These things are incredibly fast. We use it for putting Tyvek, roofing paper, all sorts of things. And this is just a matter of. So there you go. 3 different methods. Cheapest method, slowest method, the slap stapler, the air gun. Any of them, because we're going to staple the entire perimeter of our layout, and you're looking at like 120 feet that you're going to have to get. After we get this in place, this black plastic that is on top, don't worry about how neat it is along the edge. It's going to get covered up eventually. You're not going to see any of this when we're done. You could trim it back if you like, but just run it on there. The most important part is we need to leave about 4 inches at the bottom of the wall. That's the drainage area where our water is going to get out of there. At the very bottom of our construction, I told you that the last time we need to gather rocks, bricks, broken concrete blocks, and anything that you can come up with to create about 8 inches of drainage space at the bottom. And just for example, here, getting used brick is the easiest thing for us, or damaged bricks. And a little quick history about bricks. If you've ever looked at bricks, there's all kinds of bricks. This is a chunk off of one standard brick. This is an extruded brick. In other words, it was like plastic. It was forced through a form, comes out, as it comes out of the machine, whack, whack, whack. They get cut off, set up, and dried. This one is a solid brick. It has no indentations. Every manufacturer has a different pattern on their bricks. If you ever go around and looked at bricks, you'll see what I mean. This one is solid. Some have a dimple in the middle for the mortar to lay into. Others will have holes in the middle. Those holes, like this one, are for a couple of reasons. This is the exterior of the brick. This is the inside. These lines here are for drainage, moisture drainage. But this one is a 3-hole pattern. General Shale Corporation makes this brick, always with 3 holes in theirs. Other companies will have a pattern 2, 2, 2, and 2. Some have 8 in here. All of those different patterns, same reason, for air to get in there and to allow for drainage in the brick itself. Also for the mortar to bind to. So the best ones for what we want to do are the ones like this with the big holes. That's going to allow the water to go down through our base of our layout and escape for us. I've got my good old geology and masonry hammer. If I hit these things, if I hit 2 of them together, these almost have a glass-like sound. By comparison, this is a concrete brick, commonly called a paver. Different, totally different sound, totally different density. This one has been sawed. This has been hammer cut. If you can get a hold of used pavers, you want to break them up about this size. This is going to work good down in our bottom, and they're just going to be in here mixed like this. These guys right here, if I take one of these and strike it, I get a lot of pieces. That's fine, because we want rubble just about this size. You can throw the whole brick in if you'd like to. These are going to pack down a whole lot better. They're going to interlock in the bottom of our bed. The solid ones like these, same thing. Just whack it one time and you're all set. A little history on our bricks. So once we have this material in place, the next step is going to be finding fill dirt to go on top of our bricks. Some people worry that the fill dirt is going to filter down through the bricks and you're going to lose your filtration out the bottom. You can get garden fabric, weed block, things of this type, a mesh, and spread that in there if you'd like to. I found it's really not necessary, because once the soil gets compacted, it pretty much stays there, particularly if it has a little bit of clay content to it. It'll set up and get solid, and it's not really going to be an issue for you past that point. One last thing on the construction of this. By the time we get to our, Steve took my sample away. Can you grab it?
What is it?
Yes. By the time we get back to where we're going to be progressing forward, we put the plastic on the inside of here and lapped it over all the way around. We put our bricks in the bottom, about 8 inches deep. We've allowed this space here in the corner, which is 1 quart. Get a machine inside. We're going to bring our dirt in next. So at that point, those straps that I showed you earlier, those straps are going to get nailed or secured right in here after our first course of ties, right on top of this drainage material, side to side, side to side, side to side, side to side. And that's going to help these so they won't expand. Once we dump the weight of the soil on top of here, that will hold those straps in place. 1 layer of straps, push a layer of soil. We move up, 2nd layer of straps, and now we want to kind of go zigzaggy across there, opposite direction to the first ones. And then finally, our last layer of soil is going to get us right up to the edge of here. After that, we're going to start a different process in the construction, dealing with our perimeter on the outside, and we're going to close up this. We get on to our next show, our next program, I'll update my model, and we'll start to look at making that outside edge all the way around. I wanted to save a few minutes today at the end of the program, and this has nothing to do with the G scale, but this past weekend, we attended a train show, good sized show, had 180 tables at the show. Independently, 3 of us walked around the show. We all have different interests, but Steve Sherrill was looking, I was looking, our other friend was looking as well. When we all came back and kind of gathered up at one point, and I said, "Do you see any good deals?" And we said, "Yeah, we saw one. We all saw the same one." I said, this is a pretty good item." So from the show, and this is why you go to train shows, here we go. This is our purchase. It's the ON30 locomotive. This is a, let's see, Bachmann Spectral set. Not a bad locomotive, right? And this is nice little details. You can weather it up, repaint it, do whatever you like on there. So we spent $35 for our engine and locomotive. However, wait, there's more. We also got, along with that, a nice combine. We also got 2 coaches. Yes, $35 with KD couplers and metal wheels on the bottom. That's why I tell folks still, people are conscious about costs and getting into model railroading or perhaps getting a young person started. One of the best ways that you could get them is to take them to a show and let them experience shopping around, looking for a good bargain. And I think we made a good bargain at $35 for that complete set. One notice, I guess, observation I made to show was that show had a very diverse attendance. It wasn't just a lot of old guys buying and selling trains. There were quite a fair number of middle-aged people, teenagers, and particularly a lot of families with children actively engaged in buying model trains. And it was a good show. And it was nice to see a nice turnout and the variety of individuals who were participating in model railroading. So I encourage Steve at some point to come back in and with me, and we can sit down and discuss a little bit about what we see happening at shows and the type of people who are attending. And I think that it's not always what we think. Sometimes I think we aren't as good observers as we think we are going through a show. Any questions about the G-Scale project? I'll be glad to answer. I'm trying to be a little shorter tonight to fit into the show.
Well, Steve, I'd love to have you and Steve come back and talk about exactly what you mentioned about the shows and who's attending and where the hobby's going. I think it's so critical. I know it's important to us in our scholarship program to have the teenagers out there, to have the parents out there, the grandparents out there, and the young kids out there. Because the kids and the teenagers, that's the future of our hobby. So we need them. We need to find them and to encourage them best we possibly can. So I welcome you and Steve Sherrill coming back and talking about that. And I'll try to arrange it to fit your schedules.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Have any questions for Steve on the G scale?
Anybody?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
It's Pat here.
Yes, Pat.
That plastic bag you're mentioning, if you really want plastic, you can get those great big sheets they cover the whole lift with and cut it up. You know, the big white plastic sheets that cover the whole lift of 2x4s or 2x8s, right? There's a large plastic sheet there you can get for nothing.
Yes.
I'd love to get rid of those.
Those skid wrappers when they come off the trucks.
Yep.
I know exactly what you mean. I've never been able to get lined up with somebody to grab those. Here's what happens. Here's what happens. At our local ones, those trucks arrive about 8 to 9 o'clock in the evening. Get unloaded by a night crew, and they get them back out on the floor by morning. So all that activity, I need a inside person who will grab those and set them aside, because unfortunately, I think they go into a dumpster or the waste facility before we can get our hands on them.
But they're great.
They are. They have a fiber to them. Very strong. Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so very much, Steve. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. See you all after Christmas.
Yes, sir. Well, now I want to turn to Martin Breckbiel, MMR, for his Scratch Building Corner. Martin, welcome.
Oh, gosh, I'm back. Let's see, what the heck is that? And there we are. Yeah. Frivolous, but why not? So here's what we're building, or I started building whenever I started building it. Some plans that were in narrow gauge Sherrill Line Gazette for an ON30 car. I liked it, but I'm not going to build. I'm not building ON30. We're going to go straight O scale, standard gauge, and all that fun stuff. my version of it at least. And yeah, 2 weeks ago, that's about where we were. Coffee sticks and strip wood and lots of strip wood and lots more strip wood glued up, and we got the sides and the half the door on the one end, and it had the other door in the end fabricated. And instead of doing that, looking at those, though, we're going to look at the roof. This is 2 scraps of Northeastern or somebody's freight car roof. Just glue them together. I mean, this is out of my scrap box. You know, I throw everything in I have 3 or 4 scrap boxes on the one bench, and whenever I can extract something out of it and use it, I will. This is just glued up together, two scraps, and I've extended the ends to get some overhang, because otherwise it's perfectly flat on the end, and you don't have any overhang over the ends of your cars. So you have to add that on, or mill away part of the end. And easiest way to mill it away, of course, is a table saw, which is the one tool I don't have. And I'm not flipping this over and building a jig and cutting it on my radial arm saw, because I like my fingers firmly attached. So it's easier for me to cut this to a length and add overhang pieces. And you can see what I mean. You've got this extra overhang at both ends, which matches the side. Yeah, this is kind of rough, but it won't matter. We're going to cover it all up on the other side anyhow. On the underside, well, unless you're inside the car, you won't see it. So we drop the roof into place, and cleverly, I actually measured things to be correct, and the roof actually fits. It's absolutely shocking, actually, that I got it right the first try even, which it has happened once in a while. So this drops into place, and friction holds it in place, so I did eventually glue it down. And there's the end with the roof sitting over it, and you can see the purpose of having that overhang. It covers over all this end bracing and the end walls. Otherwise, it's just a blank piece of wood that sticks out, which is not very attractive. And of course, we don't have a lot of end grain showing either as a result. So paint, stain, etc., it takes very smoothly and cleanly. Okay, so we made the side door 2 weeks ago. Well, got to hang the side door. I had some barn door hinges or barn door hardware. It had grooves cut in it, which just happened to fit a 15 thousandths piece of brass. So we have a piece of brass for a railing. Just mount that to this. This door gets dropped right on that, and a little bit of CA glue, and everything's nice and snug right where it belongs. Not going to have the door open, so we have a nice door handle here. Nonetheless, just some probably 25 thousandths wire. Ladder, it's laser cut piece of ladder kit. I can't remember whose it is. It's either BTS or Banta's. I don't remember. I just grab them indiscriminately out of the parts bins and go with it. Okay, so here's the other end, the front end, or depending on your viewpoint, the back end. But I think I'm going at the front end. We have a door that we made. We put a handle on it. Some more ladder, laser cut ladder. I found one of the things, these parts don't actually fit in very well into the gaps cut into the sides of the ladders. You're going to carve just a little bit of a nick out of it. You can see this is a little bit less. Make them fit. Yeah, it's not straight. I like it that way. Keeps the water to run off the steps for you. Well, I neglected last week or whenever to not discuss an underbody, but yes, we install an entire K-brake system. I think that's a Grant Line brake cylinder. Those are styrene levers that I made. Brass hangers are just 15 by 60 thousandths brass. Lots of wire. These are Grant Line truss turnbuckles that have been cut in half or cut one end off and use those for making clevises. It all goes together with a little bit of CA, a little bit of goo, and it's easily done. All of the truss rods, that's just surgical silk, Tishy turnbuckles, Grant Line queen posts. They run. That's one piece of silk thread, by the way. It runs through the car 4 times. It's anchored at each end with Grant Line nut bolt washer casters and a little bit of CA. You get lifted up after it's strung through onto the queen posts. So these are actually under real tension. It stretches the surgical silk a bit. And you have to be kind of careful about doing it so you don't break your queen posts or do something really foolish and get the surgical silk caught on your fingernail, and it will cut you because it's got enough friction there. Okay, there's a scribe siding added to the top of that wood milled wood roof, so it doesn't matter how ugly that joint was. It's all covered up anyhow. We've added our roof walk supports, and then those are just Grant Line parts. These are 3x4s. I use a lot of 3x4s since I have a few hundred of them laying around. Okay, we made our end railings. It's just 25 thousandths brass wire. Bend that up around the corner. I actually have a small screwdriver or a piece of copper tubing that I bend it around to get different radii. So those just get bent, inserted into these supports. They're soldered together, and these are back into holes driven into the ends, and it's very sturdy and solid. We have a precision scale brake wheel through a ratchet and pawl casting into the stirrup step, and that connects up our brake system. Okay, so you can see the railings from the sides. So we added the stirrup steps. These are actually glued in place with goo and CA, and then they are drilled and pinned. And I use the word pinned. Literally, these are actually pins, clothing pins that I cut off. I hold those in a hemostat, nip them off with a pair of pliers, and then smooth the ends, stick them through the holes that are drilled with a drop of CA as I stick them through the hole. So these aren't coming off easily. And stake pockets, they're just Grant Line parts, and they're glued in. And these, as I said 2 weeks ago, these are 3x4s. That's one of the reasons I use 3x4s. They match the Grant Line castings. And yeah, there's our ladder again. Okay, we're into paint and staining. A lot of Minwax, miscellaneous Minwax stain. Various chalk, pigment stuff, whatever that stuff really is, applied with Q-tips and stuff. We've added trucks, couplers, air hoses, castings at each end now, precision scale pieces. They are soldered to a 3/64 tubing, which goes through the hole in the end, which slides over the 32 thousandths brass wire train line. So it's all one unit. It's a little tricky sliding those through the hole in the end, but a little bit of practice and they go right through pretty smoothly. A lot of black, grimy black, engine black, tarnished black, a lot of various pigments applied again. The roof is painted probably dark gray or something close to it with more stuff added to it. Pretty clean sides. A little touch up here and there just to give it a little bit of color on the staining. And there's our roof. We've got the roof walk added, the platforms, a couple of grabs which were salvaged out of a railcraft kit. I think. Might have been a train. I don't remember. It's one of the two, railcraft or traincraft. But they were in a miscellaneous tub on the parts on my bench, so they got used. And it's just painted, and then again a little bit of wash and stain and pigments added to the roof just to give it a little bit of color on top of the gray. More on the back, added a couple more grab irons across the back. And more paint and staining and more paint and staining and more paint and staining, and we're done. That's it. That's this car. And next month, it'll be something else. And I say something else because I have no idea what it is myself yet. But I'm sure I'll come up with something.
Martin,
Great model, Martin.
I have a
Anybody
question,
have
Martin.
questions? Go ahead.
Yes. On the bottom of those stanchions or those hand,
Yeah.
anyway, what did you put on those?
Those are actually castings of mine out of my parts bins. They're copies of some kind of base for a railing that I salvaged somewhere.
Okay.
And I thought they were so nice. So 8 years ago, I threw them in a mold and, RTV mold, and said, I should cast 200 or 300 of these because someday I'll use them. And every now and then someday shows up.
And somebody might ask.
Yeah, and they're hard. They're actually kind of hard to use because they're not cored for wire. So I have to sand them off and make a dimple with a tiny drill and then drill a through hole. Their work.
Okay.
But
good looking model, Martin. Thank you so much.
I think you can get something comparable to probably from Precision Scale.
I think so.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But you'll pay through the
pay big bucks.
Yeah, you better, you'll pay through the snout.
Martin,
Thanks,
thank
Martin.
you so very much.
Yep.
All right, now I want to turn to Matt Woods. Remember Matt? Matt showed us some of his dioramas last time, and tonight he's going to show us some of how he builds those dioramas. Matt, welcome. There he is.
Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm coming to you live from Northern Michigan here, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I have a new PowerPoint presentation for you tonight. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I gave kind of an overview of my modeling, kind of a portfolio of some of my dioramas and modules. So tonight I'm going to get into more the techniques and processes that I use for building simple structures, in particular barns. In a lot of my dioramas, structures are kind of the focal point, and structure modeling is one of my main interests in the hobby. So I'm going to kind of take you through my overall process and give you a little bit of inspiration and motivation for building structures. Hang on here, just trying to find my PowerPoint presentation here. Just bear with me, please. Oh, here we go. Okay, so yeah, this week I want to talk about. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
You just have to increase the picture itself and not the sides pictures.
Okay, well, as I stated, I want to talk about building simple barn type structures.
Can you click up on the upper right where it says slideshow, in the upper right of the screen?
Yes.
Where it says slideshow, click. There you go. That should put it in full.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Right. Sorry about that.
That's
Okay,
what I meant to say.
Here is a kind of a diorama that I'm currently working on that incorporates one of the barn structures that I'm going to talk about. It's kind of a rural country scene, and I like doing rural scenes, as you saw 2 weeks ago. This is a typical structure that I model using the techniques I'm going to present. Here's a prototype barn This is from the late 1800s, middle 1800s. There's another structure using these techniques. This is a kind of a hay and coal and livestock dealer along the Ohio and Erie Canal. This is an interesting prototype shot of an Amish farm. This building, I have no idea what the history of it is, but there was actually a corn crib on the left side of it, and it would make a great model to build. The techniques I'm going to talk about, there's lots of different ways to build model structures, and you can get very detailed in doing timber framing and going board by board and so forth. But the technique that I use principally is making a simple either styrene or mat board substructure. As you can see here, I have the basic walls of a small barn cut out of styrene, and then they're glued together into the basic building shape and heavily braced with styrene strip just to make a strong, stable substructure. Here is an instance where I'm using mat board or chipboard as a substructure. Again, the process involves cutting out the basic pieces that you need, typically 4 walls. And here I braced it pretty heavily with strip wood. After you build your basic substructure, and this technique can be applied to basically any type of building. I do a lot of nautical structures and, just any type of structure I'm building, you can apply this. But if you're going to use white styrene, it's good to paint everything flat black so that as you start to laminate the wooden strips that we're going to put on the substructure, you don't see any white shining through. Now, if you use black styrene or a black mat board, that wouldn't be necessary to paint the building or the substructure ahead of time. But definitely, if you're using a light colored material, it's good to paint everything flat black or a dark brown color. Here's another example of one of these basic buildings with a black mat board. I use black mat board in this instance. One thing I would emphasize that if you're going to have any door or window openings, that you cut those out before you start assembling the structure. If you're using commercial window or door castings, those dimensions of the cutouts would be whatever the commercial casting is. But it's a lot easier to cut those out before you start assembling the building. Now with styrene, the process of, make the dimensions of the cutout and then use a series of holes drilled around the perimeter of the opening and kind of cut it out and then file it down to make sure everything's even and smooth. With all my strip wood, most of my structures, I laminate either scale lumber or I use balsa planking that I cut from 1/32 stock, and I use Micromark Agent Easy to stain everything, so you get a gray, highly weathered coloration. Here's a photo showing the laminating process using super glue. I use Loctite super glue to laminate the pieces onto the substructure. And it's just a matter of fitting and cutting, deciding how tall they need to be. Any of the overhangs or above the roof line, you can go along the edge of the roof line and trim it back. It doesn't look like much right now, but you'll see that it turns out pretty decent. This is actually a blacksmith shop. This is a prototype structure in a place called Roscoe Village in Ohio, near Coshocton, Ohio. This was on the Ohio and Erie Canal, and this structure still exists, the prototype. So it's a blacksmith shop. Here are some other examples of the substructure laminated with all the planking. In this case, this was actually the barn that was in that first slide. And in this instance, I stained all the planks after I adhered them to the building or to the substructure. And I'm using a little bit different process. Instead of just relying on the staining coloration, I'm painting the whole building with Rust-Oleum camouflage, dark earth, and then going in and dry brushing on various gray and tan tones, and eventually stippling on white paint to give a peeled paint effect. Now every structure needs roofing material. So many times I'll use black construction paper to simulate tar paper, cut it into 3-foot scale strips, and then use a pounce wheel to put nail holes along the edges of the strips, and then dry brush pretty heavily with tan acrylic paint. In the right-hand photo, I'm actually making a slate roof out of individual pieces of paper using kind of a gray and greenish craft paper, and just applying the individual slates on, which is kind of a tedious process, but the results are pretty realistic. Here's another example using the construction paper, tar paper. This was black tar paper that I stippled on olive green paint, and then kind of along where I had made the nail holes with the pounce wheel, I put some rust-colored tones. So on the right is a roadside fruit market, and the other structure is a kind of a fish house along the shore of a lake. Another technique for roofing is a standing seam roof made from paper. In this case, I use kind of a rust-colored craft paper and put one sheet cut to the dimensions of one of the roof panels, and then mark out the spacing for the seams and cut narrow strips of the paper from the same craft paper and glue those on with CA to simulate a standing seam roof. On the overhang, I'm using the tar paper. These are more examples of a standing seam roof made from craft paper. When it comes to details on these simple structures, you can make door hinges out of paper, which I did in this case. And then, one thing you see a lot of, particularly with the Amish, I have a lot of Amish around near where I live. They'll put a lot of corrugated siding around barn walls on the exterior. So here I've taken some Wild West corrugated roofing material and placed it on the side of the building and weathered it up. This is examples of a corrugated metal roof using Wild West corrugated strips cut into 6 or 8 foot lengths and C8 onto the roofs. These are all HO scale buildings. Here's just a little vignette, little diorama with an HO scale barn. Kind of a prototype photo of the types of structures that we're trying to simulate here. Most barns in particular have some type of foundation, which you can simulate with foam, XPS foam. In this case, it's 1-inch XPS foam or insulation foam. And this is our blacksmith shop. And what I do is take the foam and using like a pencil, draw in the stones. Like in this case, it would be a sandstone foundation. So I kind of make some crude stones in the sides of the XPS foam, and then paint the entire foundation with a like burnt umber or raw umber paint, craft paint, or even artist acrylics, and then using various gray tones and tans, dry brush in the stone coloration. So here, just through a process of building up the color with these tans and grays, and then using some green to actually simulate moss formation along the lower edge of the stone foundation. And I've incorporated it into the scenery, actually planted it in using DOS air dry clay. So, you glue the foundation in place, the foam foundation, and then using this air dry clay, bring that clay up along the edges to make it look like it was actually built into the ground. And then the photo on the right, you can see what that looks like after it's been scenic. Here's another example of a barn using these techniques. And here I'm using 1/2-inch foam that you can only get this particular, it's foam core actually. It's a black foam core that I've only found at Hobby Lobby. It comes in big sheets, and you peel off the backing, and then you have a nice layer of 1/2-inch foam that has a good density to it. And you cut a piece to the size of the building, and then score in simple stones on the edges. And then what I forgot to mention on that previous example with the blacksmith shop, I covered the stones with Vallejo texture paste, and that gives more of a rock or stone type texture. And then I did the painting process. And in this case, I did that with the 1/2-inch foam using the Vallejo texture paste. And on the bottom right photo, you can see what that looks like incorporated into the scenery with a ramp made out of foam built up to the door. Here's another example of a structure using these simple techniques with mat board and then the strip wood laminated onto the substructure. In this case, I cut out the window openings and door opening ahead of time and used commercial castings, styrene castings. This is actually one of my favorite structures that I've done recently. Kind of a typical roadside fruit market. Here's that previous barn incorporated into a scenic diorama. They have a silo that is falling apart. And then here's an HO barn incorporated into a scenic environment. So, this is just some basic ideas on how to make simple structures, using a substructure and then laminating it with strip wood or balsa strips that are made from 1/32 stock. Any questions?
Matt, I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much for showing us. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thank you so very much. Beautiful structure. So now I want to turn to Tom Farrell. And Tom Farrell has something kind of special for us this evening. I'll let him explain what it is. Mr. Farrell, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me this evening. Before I begin, I want to plug next week's show. Next week, I'll be building a Thomas York original resin kit, Becky Sue's House of Beauty. This will be my third kit that I've featured from Frenchman River Model Works. And Frenchman River Model Works is offering a discount if you use this code NEWTRX. It's a 20% discount on this kit. It's a really nice kit. It's really easy to put together. And the art in a resin kit is the finishing of them. I think you're really going to like this. And I encourage everyone to support Frenchman River Model Works. By supporting them, you're supporting the show. Okay, enough of that. So this evening, as Jim indicated, I'm going to feature a master modeler, Len Eberwein, and the scratch building of a stamp mill that he did in O scale. He's an ON30 modeler. He is, as I say, one of the finest modelers you've never heard of. He's just an incredible modeler. And to David Vaughn's point, wait till you see what this thing looks like. And it'd be difficult to do it in a smaller scale, but in O scale, all things are possible detail-wise. So what is a stamp mill? I'm going to give you a little history of what a stamp mill is for those that didn't know. I loosely knew what they were because I'm from the mining industry, but I never participated in anything like this. Interesting enough, the concept of these stamp mills has been around for over 2,000 years. And something I didn't know. And the technology, believe it or not, had little changed in over 2,000 years, as we'll see. There's a photograph on the left there of a stamp mill. Stamp mills, basically, they're a series of either water-powered, electrical-powered, or steam-powered hammers. They call them stamps that basically crush aggregate, crush stone, rocks, and the idea is to crush it and then leach out the metal or material that you're trying to remove. So, for example, stamp mills are frequently used in the gold mining industry. this particular rock has a very heavy gold content. This is sitting in quartz. Typically, the gold is much tinier, like this little spot here, or this little bit in here. This, you'd be very fortunate. So the idea, as you'll see, is you crush the stone and then you mix it with mercury. And mercury, in essence, forms an amalgam. Basically, it, in layman's terms, combines with the gold and melts it out of the stone, if you will. And now you have this amalgam, which is a combination of mercury, which is a metal, and gold, which is a metal. And you've got to get the mercury out of the gold to recover the gold. And everything in the world has a vapor pressure, including concrete, but mercury has a relatively low vapor pressure. So basically they boil the mercury off and they recover the gold and they recapture the mercury so that it's not, it is a dirty process. So, but they do reuse the mercury. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but just conceptually, there's this, how these things work is there's a minor wheel and a major wheel here. It's typically belt driven. There's a series of cams, camshafts, and they're just, as this turns, these cams move these hammers up and down and they batter the material. The material gets fed into this feed here, drops down into this this area right here, and it just smashes the crap out of it and pulverizes it. And then it passes through these screens and goes on to further processing. I just want you to get an idea how it works. So basically this thing spins. These hammers are working up and down, up and down, up and down, crushing the aggregate, the rocks, pulverizing it so that when you mix it with mercury, you leach out the gold. They also use this process for copper and silver. So basically there's one that's, they process a little differently today, but turn of the century, this is how it looked. Basically, it's to crush these fine rocks, into fine particles, and then we mix it with mercury, leach out the gold, then we vaporize the mercury off, and it leaves behind the gold. So now we're going to jump into the model. Len Eberwein's scratch-built stamp mill. I mean, wait till you see this thing. This guy, this is a museum piece. So this is the outside of the model. Len gave me all his high-end models, and they're going to be incorporated on the Rustic Buff and Old Gothic Railroad. Len is downsizing, and he wanted his models to go into a working model railroad. He didn't want to. He wanted to make sure they had a secure home, and I'm so happy he chose me. It was quite an honor. He started this thing over 10 years ago in March, April of 2012, and it actually won an award at the 34th National Narrow Gauge Convention in Kansas City. The Narrow Gauge Convention next year, by coincidence, is in Kansas City. He took second place. I would love to see what first place looked like, because this is just an unbelievable model. It's large. It's 16 inches high from this top of this plywood base. It's 16 inches deep and 12.5 inches wide. It has removable roofs because he has a fully detailed interior to this. It looks, wait till you see these photographs. It looks like you could actually walk around inside of this. It's just an amazing museum quality model. Now here's something I do know. This is called a grizzly. So the hooked up to this is a mining operation that has ore cars that would dump rock into this grizzly. A grizzly is just a series of rods or bars that only allows a certain size drop through into the holding bin, the ore bin here. If they don't fit through the grizzly, they are physically picked up by an operator and put into this rock crusher. So they take a stone, put it in here, it crushes the rock, and then it drops down into the ore bin. Water is a key component in this because it feeds this boiler down here and the steam engine that turns all of this. These are the ore bins. They have chutes and screens. Everything's screened. You don't want too large a material to go down into these stamping. They look like pistons. So you don't want jams or anything. So all along you have grizzlies, screens. The steam engine turns everything, and we'll have close-up photos of all of these devices. I just wanted you to get an idea of the layout. There's a boiler here. This is the sluice. There's a hose here. So when this powder comes out here, in lens, he's not using mercury. He's just using water. So he's not, this one isn't technically producing gold. I'm going to assume that 90% of these did produce gold, and there would be mercury introduced at this point. This is called a riffle bed. This largest pieces of gold would fall, or metal would fall out high through gravity, and the finer pieces would, I'm sorry, the opposite. The heavier pieces drop out first, and then the finer pieces later. This is simply a, as you'll see, it's a slope boards here. Okay, so this is his water tower. He has all prototype piping and valves and things, and bands holding this together. Everything he does holds up to close scrutiny. I mean, this is magnified immensely. So that's his, we'll call it a water tower holding tank. Look at that. It's like you're standing there looking into the mill. The entire outer walls, the whole thing lifts off, so you have access to take photographs like this. It basically disassembles. So I was able to get my camera down here low. Look at the detail on that steam engine. There's all kinds of pipes with all the proper fittings, and flywheels and belts and tools and flooring, and everything scored and stained, and hand-carved balsa foam. There's the scratch-made boiler that he made for the steam engine. This is a huge magnification. It still stands up. This is that rock crusher. Basically, you drop the rocks in here, and there's a hammer underneath that just pounds it. Down she goes. These are the ore chutes. This is all scratch built, everything you see there. An operator can stand here, crank this wheel, and open up these chutes is the concept. So the nail holes, the detail on holding these the flooring in place. There's bolt details in a lot of this. This is for for shaking the sluice, the gravity separator there, the rifle. This is everything runs off of a belt. He's done all the details on the belts and all the holding and all the clamps and all the bearings and all the straps that hold the metal together. Huge, under intense magnification here. This holds up. And look at this. This is the actual mechanism that is completely scratch built. So these are the cams, the followers, the I'll call them hammers. So the idea is this spins, these cams raise these up like lifters in an automobile. And just, I mean, the noise must be crazy to hear this thing just hammering away, hitting these rocks. Bang, 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 bang. And then the material exits right here. Isn't that incredible? It's like you're looking at the real thing. I mean, it really looks real. And that's an O scale. He's an ON30 modeler. So the powdered material, there's water introduced here, and the powdered material comes out and runs down this slope. And it comes down here, and then it has this gravity takes over, the heavier stuff falls off, which is the gold. And instead of water, this could be mercury. It's how most of these work. You don't necessarily, this is typically called, it's really light stuff. You'll get nuggets up here or larger pieces up here. Here you get what we call black sand. Later it will be vaporized off and you'll get the pure gold. So that's Len himself, and that's his stamp mill. Yeah. Beautiful model. What'd you all think of that?
Fantastic.
It's an amazing model. Tom, what he's actually modeling is a 19th century process where they didn't yet use mercury. He just crushed it very fine and then, used the shaker table, sort of like the same way a guy panning for gold in the stream would shake his pan. The same thing works on this larger scale, and it somewhat refines it. And then the railroad would ship, or they'd ship the fines in sacks to a smelter, and that's where they would further refine to get the gold out of the rest of the rock. It's before they were using mercury.
That explains it. Even though I'm a mining guy, this is out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, this is 19th century stuff. I saw this. If you go to Silverton and go up in the mountains above Silverton, there are the ruins of several of these mills tucked way, way, way back. And they would do the crush it fine enough that it was economic to haul the crushed material in a railroad car down to the smelter.
Well, there you go. That explains why there's no mercury process here, because all I found was mercury process. I couldn't, like I said, this is a little out of my bandwidth, but what a fantastic modeler. And if you folks recall, about a month ago, I featured a couple other of his models. I'll sometime in January or February, I'll feature another one, but each one of them is of this museum quality. They're just amazing. And I'm glad that I'm the caretaker, because I respect and know how much time something like this takes to scratch build.
Especially the mill machinery, that all of those bits and pieces from the grizzly down to the hammers and so forth is all scratch built bits is just astounding.
Yeah, and what's most astounding is this was second place. What the hell did first place?
Good question.
Anyway, any other questions? Okay, thank you for having me. Yeah. And check out Frenchman River Models.
What do you want to talk about? Mr. Sherrill, are you with us?
I am, sir.
Oh,
I'm trying-
okay.
Let me put this up first. How about, can you see me? Can you see that package?
Yeah.
Well, the other day, a package came to my house. It was from Japan. Of course, I was expecting it. It was something that I had purchased. And so inside the package was a Cato mini diorama. And so I wanted one of these because it interested me to see what they looked like, how hard they were to put together. And I had looked at some videos of some train shows in Japan where Cato had demonstrations and had their products displayed. And one of the things they showed was these little mini dioramas that people had put together and formed a layout. So they put out a little booklet, and in the booklet it explains about the dioramas, what you're going to need, something about them, some of the useful items you're going to need to put them together. So next to it, you see the diorama, and I got the curved one. I got two curved ones. So of course I laid it out, and you can see the curved track, which is a piece of Cato 7-inch radius curve. And so I stuck my 0-18 locomotive on it, just because I wanted to see what it was going to look like. And you know, I couldn't wait to get the thing built. So like all good modelers, I took everything out of the package and laid it out. So then I opened up one of the packages and laid that out so that I could see exactly how to put it together. Now, everything is lettered, and all the instructions are in Japanese. So that helped me out a lot. There is a video on YouTube which shows exactly how to put this together in English. And so if you look closer, you can see A and B and some of the other numbers, some of the other letters rather. So I started up. I was going to put it together with Eileen's glue, but that didn't hold quick enough for me, so I had to get super glue. So you can see I've started here with, and one of the interesting things is one of the pieces to the left there that you see, that rectangle, that is an N-scale gauge, a track gauge, which I didn't know what it was until I finally figured it out. There was nothing about it in the instructions. So I continued on, and the first one took me about 13 minutes to put together. The second one, I was a little faster. It took me about 10 minutes. So they go together real easy. The hardest part is if you go back and look where you saw this piece up in the upper right-hand corner is styrofoam. That styrofoam has to be cut on the angle of the curved piece if you're going to use that. I used it on one. I did not use it on the other. If you see the right-hand side, little module here, the diorama rather, I didn't use it on the left-hand side. I did. Now, it came with some extra pieces to form just pieces of track to connect the dioramas. And so that's what I have underneath the little Tyco bridge there that I have. I got at a train show with Steve last weekend. And so I put those together and just stuck that underneath there. So even with two pieces and the bridge in the middle, I have 19 inches that I could put with other people if I wanted to be a part of the group with them. Now, there's in the videos I've seen, these things are fantastically done. You would not believe the quality of the modeling these people have put into these. And on the YouTube, they give you some hints how to fill in the different layers and things like that with clay, how to put the trees on, and all the stuff like that. I would say that this is basically a beginner's type of diorama from the construction standpoint. Of course, when you decorate these, you can do all kinds of levels of quality on those. Right now, this is all I have finished on those. I don't know where I'm going to take them, but that's what I have. They were $15 a piece. I got 2 for $30, and they come with the track and with the pieces of the wood to form the diorama. The pamphlet, I don't know if I told you, we got the pamphlet from one of the sponsors here, National Capital Trains, gave me the pamphlets, Bernie Kreitzer, and so we'll be handing those out when we have our displays for the scholarship to some of the young participants that come by. We're always trying to get everybody to come and model. So that's the story I have on that. If you have any questions on those dioramas, the construction is real simple. I got it straight from Japan. It took a little over 2 weeks to get them. So I thought that was pretty quick. Now, I want to go right into something else that Jeff Thornton and I have been talking on Tuesday evenings. It's just kind of an impromptu Zoom. And Jeff, if you're out there.
Yes, I am.
How about give us a little heads up on what you're doing there on Tuesday night? It's an opportunity for people to talk about really anything, but we kind of lean toward narrow gauge. So if you want to, give us a little background or what's going on out there.
Well, I like your segment on New Tracks so much, but I understand the time constraints. And a lot of our discussion, even before tonight's meeting, was based on O scale, specifically narrow gauge. And it seems like there's quite a few of us that participate on Zoom with this group that I would like to have the opportunity to jaw with you guys more. And in today's technology, it's easier to do that over Zoom, where I can speak to you in West Virginia, Greg in California, and Tom down in Lower Indiana. And it's easier to do it over Zoom. And instead of getting together and meeting at a coffee shop, or in the old days, we used to meet at the local hobby shop. But I think it's an opportunity for us to get together in a more informal setting. Production quality is meant nothing. Basically, anybody got anything going on this weekend? I mean, we cruised Facebook a little bit, looking at some stuff that's been on Facebook lately. Steve showed some projects. I've shown some photos, and it's something more informal. It's just sort of get together. I'm starting it at 7:00 at night, and it goes till whenever. And if we need to stay up till midnight to hit all time zones, then we will. And but it's just really informal, and basically it's been not just narrow gauge. It's about kit bashing and modifying locomotives and different skills. It's just whatever topic somebody wants to bring out and talk about.
It's very similar to what we do after the show is over. We sit around and talk about anything that comes to our mind. and we go on for probably 30 minutes to an hour after the show here. And so maybe that wasn't enough time. We thought we wanted to do more. So Jeff has gotten together on Tuesday night to kind of carry on that informal get together. So if you, I'm sure, Jeff, if you want to tell them how to, be a part of it.
Well, I put my my email address already in the chat of this Zoom meeting, and if somebody wants to just email me, I will make sure to send out the invitation and make sure they have the correct link. And as in this show, we'll use the same code and password from week to week. And there's no set time, 7 o'clock or whenever. I plan on having the Zoom up and working before 7 o'clock. And like I said, I'll leave it up till the last person goes home.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
Sounds fantastic. It really does. Sounds like it could be a very interesting thing.
I think that it takes the place of me phoning one modeler. I can talk to as many as are on the Zoom.
Yeah.
So I like it. As well as I also like after this show. We sit around and talk about things that we don't get to in the regular show.
Can I make a suggestion, Jeff, that maybe for the weeks of Christmas and New Year's, that do something on the new tracks those 2 weeks, because we're gonna have those just open those 2 nights on Christmas Eve and New Year's, or Christmas Day and New Year's. So might think about how you could combine the two or something.
Yeah.
Well, the one is been geared more to scale, narrow gauge talk, but like I said, we expand it all. We can talk on the new tracks night. We can talk HO, N scale, or anything, and it can be prototype discussion. It could be most. We do all nights.
Oh, okay, well, thank you so much, guys. I'm afraid we've got to move on here. Phil's got another video from the Pittsburg Narrow Gauge Convention where he and Tom and Jeff were. So Phil, I'll turn it over to you before we close this thing out. And this is going to be our caboose for this evening.
Thank you, Jim. So last week we showed kind of the East Broad Top, a little bit of the speeder ride. This week we've got is a little bit more on the rest of the grounds and then a shop tour. So we'll go ahead and run that now.
I just want to get a couple of pictures of these guys. These are kind of cool.
Yard here.
Yep.
You should use that video you made edited for the caboose.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do with these. I take some of these videos and
Truck goes on.
Yep.
They do have a turntable, yeah, not any.
Howdy, howdy. How you doing?
It's turntables across the street.
Oh, it's this one on this way.
Yep, no, it's not. A lot of these items that you're seeing are digital.
That's M1, which I believe is the only existing narrow gauge gas electric in the United States.
Yeah, there were rides on that, but you had to reserve them ahead of time.
It's very neat. There's a window in the back of the cab. You can see the engineer's arrangement, and the poor engineer gets to sit right next to the gasoline engine.
Please get off of the stone, only on the grass, oh please.
That's pretty neat too. Is it still a 44 tonner when it's narrow gauge?
Interesting enough, the sides of the car, I think, are all vinyl. Either vinyl or steel.
But I need to check something. Are there any cab riders here in my group?
By the way, look at the color of the rails there for coloring your rails.
Yeah.
Follow me. Or don't. All right. Sorry. Okay, cool. All right, we got everybody? All right, we're gonna give you as much time as I can to watch this thing go and stuff. So I was asking a question, how many of you have actually taken this tour either in the recent years or years and years ago? All right, so if you haven't been here in the last 4 years, I'm assuming it's a little bit nicer looking in here and things are a little brighter and the windows aren't falling out or boarded up, buildings aren't falling down. We've put an incredible amount of work into these shops in the last 4 years, but not only that, starting in the early 2000s with what the Friends of the East Broad Talk have done. That's where I got involved originally was volunteering here. I was on what they call the Boiler House Rats crew. We rebuilt everything you see above here, jacked the buildings up. These buildings were so close to collapsing in the late 90s that one good snowstorm probably would have done it in. Over the last 20 years, and especially in the last 4, we've now stabilized every building. Pretty much everything except for the couple that are obvious out here have been stabilized. Started installing fire suppression. You can see the orange and black piping up there in 2020. We're on the final phase of that. What started out as a $250,000 project is now running to about $1.25 million due to things out of our control such as inflation and water system, water supplies, things of that nature. So everything you see that looks new has been replaced, was done mostly by the Friends. There's a whole lot of work that got done in the last 4 years that you can't see, because I always joke that the Friends work really hard to make it look like they've done nothing at all, which is the point of it all. So shop was first constructed about 1883. Where you're standing right now is the original footprint. Over time, it kind of expanded out. The original locomotives were about half the size of the number 14 back there. 1904 to 1910, President Siebert modernized the railroads. Most of the machines you see in here were purchased between 1904 and 1910. Very well equipped shop for a small railroad like this out in the middle of nowhere even then. They did a lot of work for the mines that they owned, but also for the brick plants in Mount Union, plus a lot of local business as well. The heart and soul of the whole complex really is Babcock and Wilcox boilers. Not only do they supply steam for the shop engine, they supply steam heat to 13 buildings in the shop complex. The station, Marble House up on the hill, which is now the American Legion, was the president's house for a while, and a bunch of houses in town that were company houses had steam heat from here. And then behind the double doors, you'll see the electric generator. So before commercial electricity was available, they provided lighting for the buildings and also for the buildings I just mentioned. They turned it on at 7 in the morning and shut it off at 11 o'clock at night. So basically, it's just like if you're old enough to remember when the TV actually turned off at midnight and then came back on. Every time it gets a little more drawn out, I gotta wait.
So dramatic.
Yes. I like to hear it though. I'm glad at least we get it out.
It's good to hear.
We go to a lot of antique shows anywhere we can find it. And we've had some farmers locally that had sawmills that donated it to us. So we've got a pretty good supply of the leather building. Basically, this belt here was a seamless belt, which meant it had no end. So there were craftsmen back in those days that, it's got about 7 layers of leather in it, and then it's all staggered and lapped over each other. And they would have glued it together, endless belt. We had to cut it when we fixed the building, unfortunately, and when we laid it out, it was like 82 feet long, 12 inches wide. Grab that rope hanging down from the, give it a tug.
little creaking that you hear is what drives me insane all summer because I just can't quite get it right. The building, some of these buildings have settled like 11, 12 inches, so it's amazing that the line staff went back and just can't fence. They still have a little bit of memory to them. So over the winter, we went through with the laser transit, got them all set perfect. Spent about 2 weeks doing that just to turn it on and have it make more noise than it did when we started. So I was like, it's been fun. Yeah, we've been fun in the happy spot. But it hadn't moved in 50 plus years, so as wide as it is, I'm happy. Pretty much last year and this year, we installed all the roofs on these buildings outside of one small section. It's nice now to have to really get out of that roof.
Check out that wheel lathe on the left, or wheel turner on the left.
I'm one of the folks who visited this shop in the old days when it was filled with clutter. It's amazing to see it now all cleaned up. Because literally when they stopped using it, they just walked away and left everything piled in there. And the floor space was very cluttered. Now all these open aisles, and it looks like a working shop. It's remarkable.
Well, that's our show for this evening. We really do appreciate you being here. We hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, we hope you learned something. After all, that's what it's all about. Have a happy, happy Thanksgiving. See you next Wednesday. Pat, Phil, thank you so much. Great job.